Hi there. I would like to read you an excerpt, which is a little part of a whole chapter book called Jeremy Thatcher, Dragon Hatcher by Bruce Colville. It's one of my all-time favorite stories, and it's magical. It's about dragons and magic shops and strange mystical things happening. And it's a good book to read at this time of year during Halloween. So I will read just a part of it. It's close to the beginning, and the main character's name is Jeremy. And he's running away from some people that he doesn't want to be around. And he's in the middle of his town that he knows, downtown. And here's what happened. Silence. He stood to look around. A little prickle ran down his spine. I've never seen this street before. That wouldn't have been so strange in a city, but Blodgett's Crossing was a small town. I've lived here all my life. How can I be lost? Feeling somewhat nervous, Jeremy followed the street until it came to a T. He turned right and entered what began to seem like a maze of unfamiliar streets. Suddenly, he noticed a trace of fog moving around his feet. The afternoon seemed darker than it had just a few minutes before. As he turned in a slow circle, trying to find the way home, he spotted an old-fashioned shop at the end of the street. Its large front window curved out to make a display space. Thin strips of wood divided the window into many small panes of glass. Printed on the window were the words, "Elives Magic Supplies, S.H. Elives, proprietor." Forgetting his momentary panic, Jeremy walked toward the shop. Who could resist? Maybe I can find something to make Freddie Howard and Mary Lou disappear, he thought, feeling deliciously cranky. He didn't really expect that, of course, but he was still excited as he approached the shop. A large brass knocker hung in the center of the door. Jeremy hesitated. Should he knock? You don't knock to go into a store, he told himself with a shrug. He pressed on the door. It swung open. A small bell tinkled overhead. Once inside, Jeremy began to smile. The shop was dark and mysterious. It smelled of some sort of incense, spicy and sharp, yet strangely pleasant. Magician's equipment crowded the shelves, the display cases, even the floor. A section of one wall was given over to cages filled with rabbits and doves, as well as an odd selection of toads, lizards, and... Jeremy squinted to be sure. Yes, bats! He walked over to the cages and smiled in approval. The mild, musky smell told him the animals were well cared for. After a moment, he turned from the animals and wandered toward the back of the shop. To his left was a shelf lined with top hats. Chains of jewel-colored silk scarves stretched across the walls and dangled from the ceiling. Directly ahead of him, resting on a pair of dark red sawhorses, was an enormous box made for sawing people in half. Jeremy spotted an old man. Mr. Elives? Polishing a glass countertop. The man's long white hair hung around his shoulders. His walnut-colored skin had more wrinkles than Jeremy's laundry pile. Behind the man, a stuffed owl sat on the top of the cash register. At least Jeremy thought the owl was stuffed, until it turned its head looking directly at him and began to hoot. Mr. Elives put down his cloth. Peace, Uwella, he said. I know he's here. He turned to Jeremy and frowned, as if the idea of a customer was truly annoying. Well, what do you want? He asked sharply. Jeremy blinked. I don't think I want anything, he said. I just came in to look around. No one comes into this shop just to look around, said the old man. But you can start that way. Let me know when you've found what you need. Before Jeremy could say that he didn't need anything, the old man picked up his rag and returned his attention to the countertop. What an old fruitcake, muttered Jeremy, turning his own attention back to the display cases. In the first, he found a human skull that looked almost real. The Skull of Truth, read a hand-lettered label underneath it. Next to the skull was a collection of Chinese rings, and next to the rings, resting on a kind of pedestal, was a shining, multicolored ball, almost the size of his fist. 1,000 different hues seemed to shimmer against its glistening surface. Jeremy turned his head slightly, and the colors shifted into a new pattern. He blinked and looked more closely. The colors were moving on their own. And I'm going to leave that there for you. I hope you might be interested enough to read this story. We have them in the library, and if you want to check it out, let Mr. McMahon know, and we'll save it for you when we do library pickup in a couple of weeks. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.